Whoa! What's going on, boys? This is Grim Reaper bringing you One Punch Man 169 review. Now, there's a lot to get into. It's going to be a quick one. So like the video, subscribe, join the family, and help us grow. Let's begin. The first big major plot point in 169 is the revelation that the core, Genos' core, was somehow able to, I guess, record all of the events that happen in this future scenario or in this future timeline, as it's kind of fuzzy as what the explanation is exactly, but it seems straightforward to a degree. So Genos connects his connecting terminal or connecting lead to the core, and then gets all these memories back, and he now for the first time completely understands the power of Saitama. And that's why this dynamic is important. Not necessarily because, or not only because now Genos is the only individual who actually knows the truth of what happened here in regards to the Garou fight. In that one timeline, that is. In that particular timeline. But now he has another chance of actually getting a greater grasp of what Saitama's full power is. Now, here's the stipulations, and this is why I phrase it that way. Saitama used a serious sneeze as the strongest attack that we've seen so far in the series. It blew apart, or blew away, half of the gases on Jupiter, if not all of it. So, that attack being the strongest that we've seen, it was casual just like the other ones, and it wasn't a punch. So the speculation is that the serious sneeze wasn't Saitama's strongest attack at that power level. What does this mean? That he could potentially, with a serious punch, destroy all of Jupiter or more. That still, Genos may not have the full grasp of what Saitama's power is. Now, this is all speculation because Saitama fused with the current timeline Saitama. And we don't know what that means. We know that he lost his memory, but did he lose his power? We don't know what the instance is. We don't know what the scenario is. We don't know what the reality is yet. But to imply that Saitama loses not only development, but not power because of this, I'm not so sure that's gonna uphold. So that's my belief, that not only does this plot point solidify Genos' understanding of who Saitama is into the future, which is probably gonna give us a different dynamic now. Because before it was all like Genos doing this and doing that, failing, and then coming to Saitama for like for advice or what to do next, or misinterpreting Saitama's advice or information that he gives him. But now we could see a scenario where Genos has more faith in Saitama than Saitama has in himself. That it's not as if there's going to be scenarios where Saitama questions his confidence or questions whether he can do things. But I want to see the different ways that the relationship between Saitama and Genos can go based upon the simple fact now. The dynamic has to change. It just has to change now. The simple fact that we have now, Genos knowing Saitama's strength more so than he does, and we haven't got any like dialogue to like, I guess, reaffirm or deny the fact that like Saitama might be feeling different. We don't know. We know that he's talking about the abnormalities with his clothes, whatever, but he doesn't seem different. So the question is, did Saitama really retain the power from back then? Remember, what happened here is that Saitama went back in time with that powered up punch and smacked Garou. Took the power of God right out of him. But then after that he fused with the current timeline Saitama. So we don't know if he lost memories in this regard. What else could he have lost? So we don't know. That's the part that's unclear right now. But it's really interesting to see that. I'm so happy that Genos is back. My favorite character. He's going to be continuing the storyline. That's what I was hoping for. Genos explains in a comedic fashion with a callback to the beginning of the series where Saitama and Genos were sitting down and Genos was explaining to Saitama his full life story, even though he didn't ask for it. We got another instance of that with the explanation that that Genos believes is what's happening. And from what it looks like, we're supposed to be taking this as the interpretation, as the actual explanation of what actually happened here. Like Murata and One just trying to actually literally address what happened there. I guess there isn't going to be a redraw or a retcon or anything of the sort. It's obviously comedic because it doesn't matter. That's why we got this type of explanation, because it doesn't really matter why it got brought back to this point. This is just how they wanted to end it. And for the most part, yeah, it's bad, but it's tolerable. And it works. So I'm here for it. If we do get a redraw, that's fine. But for the most part, I think this is the final instance that we're going to get. The final, or the author's actually addressing it indefinitely, if it's better to put it in that way. It is what it is. What we're to take from it is the sentimental value and the pedestal or the change in mindset that Genos is going to have in regards to Saitama, and maybe in regards to everything else. We'll see more about that. Let's see. So the next portion that we get here is something that was controversial in regards to some, and I won't even say some, multiple individuals in the community were coming at me in the comment section or wherever it may be with the belief that Garou is not dead. So let me make this clear. The story of One Punch Man is clearly emphasizing that there are different timelines, that there was a future that did not happen because Saitama came back from that future to the past to ensure it didn't happen. But the Garou in that timeline did indeed die. He turned to salt because he disobeyed God. And the individual who we saw here, the individual who's smiling at Tadio, the individual who Tadio saw as a ghost who faded away, that's the Garou from that timeline. And that's why, for all intents and purposes, the Garou who we followed this entire time, the Garou who made that choice for that ominous end, he did die. And it's sad. But we do have, and something that we've been talking about, or at least myself has been talking about for a while here, that Garou the hero, or hero helper Garou, is finally a reality now. We'll talk about that, or we'll touch on that a little bit in a second, but we should take a moment to reflect on what we actually learned from Garou. Perseverance is key. Like, no matter what the instance was, he pushed through. And yes, it had something to do with his battle genius, and now we're told that it has something to do with being derived from the water stream itself, that learning the techniques and the philosophy behind the water stream gave Garou the capabilities of copying so many other techniques. Never give up is something that's cliche, especially in regards to these narratives, but the sentiment, I feel like it's a cliche sentiment because it's so true. Like, at the fundamentals of everything, if you want to reach a goal, no matter what it is, good or bad, just don't give up. Continue persevering at it. Whether it's time, whether it's skill that you need, whether it's confidence that you need, whatever it is, don't give up. And you can, or if not, will eventually achieve that goal, that pinnacle. There's definitely more to it, because Garou as a character, as a whole, was exceptional. And I'd probably say one of the best characters in fiction that we have so far. Because Garou wasn't just about fighting. We've seen with his relationship with Tadio throughout that there's never been a solid 100% a belief cemented in the fact that Garou is actually a monster. Even when he was turning into a monster, Saitama pointed out that his acts were damn near heroic. Even though they weren't on purpose or purposeful, they were damn near heroic. So Garou's always been a multi-dimensional character. We can even remember back in the time where he chose not to take out he chose not to continue fighting once Metal Bat's sister came around. And then when Metal Bat's sister was about to be attacked by the Phoenix Man and the other monsters, I think it was like Sludge Jellyfish, somebody else, he came in and bodied them. So it's another instance. Him saving Tadio in the Rover fight, consequently having to tell him to piss off because Rover was gonna kill them both if he was having to protect Tadio throughout the entirety of the fight. So like, Garou may be one of the better characters in the series, if not the best character in the series, aside from Saitama. There's a deep question that was brought up here. It was, can Garou be redeemed? I personally don't think so. At least the Garou that we saw at the end of the other timeline. He was definitely past redemption. But this Garou was definitely on that same path. He accepted those powers. It was just intercepted by Saitama. That's what we have to remember, that Saitama came in at the right moment, right before everybody was going to die from radiation. They're still poisoned, according to the end of the chapter. But it was brought... It was funny. It was almost like it was a court where Genos proposes that only Saitama has the right to decide what Garou's fate's going to be. Amai is saying that us as a hero community, because of the actions that we've taken here, we're in a consensus that they should have the right to decide what's going to be Garou's fate. And then you get Saitama, who actually answers and says that maybe we should just let things play out how they are because he's accepting the punishment or whatever, which I didn't necessarily agree with. Then you have Tadeo coming up talking about, you guys are heroes, what are you doing? How is this a philosophy that you could take? Which is another viewpoint, and I think the actual viewpoint that's it should be followed here. And then King comes and reassures or supports Tadeo's position. So like, it was an interesting dynamic of justice there, of the different forms of justice that are possible. In One Piece, to go into a lot more depth into different forms of justice. And I think this is an example of one in Murata exploring that. The possibilities of redemption and what to do after you capture a great evil, an ominous end, as Garou put it. Like, is Amai right? Like, they were basically trying to kill him before. What's the difference now? He surrendered. And they pointed out, yeah, as Metalbat said, you're attacking a guy who's like an injured, defenseless guy. So what's the point? What are you really doing here? It's something that you should consider. And then I think there's more gray than black and white in that question. More than I would like. I would like it to be black and white. But I think there's more gray to that type of situation or scenario. Zombie Man interfered into the beating to question Garou about God. And I want to point this out because there are now several individuals who we've gotten like exclamation marks, or they've noticed or inquired or been curious about the mention of God here, or the influence of someone else. Zombie Man, Flashy Flash, Bang, Amayo's around here, seem to know about God. But well, how significant, or what significance does that have? Are they going to be the players who are going to be leading the arc whenever God shows up? Like, are they going to be the individuals who are going to be like fighting the influence of God on a terrestrial level aside from Blast? Are they going to join that? Like the next few instances or appearances of the Heralds of God, as they're called or being dubbed unofficially by some members in the community, are they going to be those who face them? Like the next Herald of God, is it going to have to be Zombie Man who fights him again? Is it going to be Amai? Is it going to be Bang? Is it going to be Flashy? Flashy in particular, because he's the one who had the dialogue. Talking about Blast did say something about God. And that's that same instance. If Flashy heard at that time period, when we only got a reaction from Bang, then who else heard? So it's going to be interesting to see what information gets divulged or cemented in the series as common knowledge about God. Is God going to become an actual threat? All in all, I think it was a solid way to end the arc. I wanted more, maybe I would want more finality in regards to Garou. And in regards to the God situation, I think more has to be addressed. But I think we're going to get a debriefing type chapter or two where the S-Class get together, reassemble, and then we get all that situated before we move on to the next portion of the storyline. I don't think it's just going to be like forgotten, the fact that like everybody has radiation poisoning and is knocked out. So we'll get to see that. I think Metal Knight's a coward. His dialogue there when he showed up, like, oh, it seems the fight's over or whatever. And his dialogue at the beginning of this arc really really tanked my opinion of the character, and I think it actually tanks his stock. Granted, no, I'm not the only sole arbiter of the stock rating. It's more of a community situation. But I think everybody can agree that this is a really distasteful presentation of Metal Knight. Like, sure, we wouldn't even get anything badass or cool that he's coming to collect or set up. Like, no, I'm very disenchanted with Metal Knight, and I need to see more. I now hold Drive Knight in a higher esteem than I do Metal Knight. It has nothing to do with power level or anything like that. It's in regards to how I feel about their presentation in the story so far. That's affecting my opinion. Like, the author presents these characters in a certain light, they get a certain type of entrance or whatever, and that's to build your opinion or to build your perspective of the character. My perspective of the character in regards to this chapter is completely negative. Like the video, subscribe, stay tuned for the podcast. There's going to be a lot to talk about. A finality, a discussion of settling the chaos. Figuring out what's coming next. Very prediction heavy. Like the video, subscribe, stay tuned for that. Yo ho ho!